Luke, John, Acts, and Romans. 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians and Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. Now it's 1st Timothy, then it's 2nd Timothy, Titus and Philemon, and Hebrews, James. Now it's 1st Peter, and then it's 2nd Peter, 1st John, 2nd John, 3rd John, Jude. Revelation. These are the books of the Bible, the wonderful books of the Bible. These are the books of the Bible, the wonderful books. It's a letter from God that sets everyone free, a gift for you, for me. These are the books of the Bible, the wonderful books of the Bible. Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Hello, Desert Breeze kids and families. I hope this online lesson finds you well. We are in week 3 of our Promise series, going through some of the stories in Genesis, with our big idea for today being God's promises are for now and for later. God's promises are for now and for later. Now, in today's story, we are going to hear about a man who God made a promise to him and his family, and later his descendants as well. God even showed the man how big his promise was going to be. Who was this man? Well, his name was Abram, soon to be Abraham. And you can find the story in Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 through 3, all the way through chapter 15. So let's roll that clip and hear about our character today.
The Faithful Hall of Fame, Abraham. This is Abram, who will later be known as Abraham. Hey! When Abram was in the land called Canaan, God told him to look over the land as far as his eyes could see. God promised that the land would be blessed and that Abram would have many children. 25 years passed. Abram and Sarai were very old and still had no children. God appeared to Abram and said, "Don't be afraid. I'm your shield. A son is coming. Look at the heavens and count the stars. Someday you will have as many children as there are stars in the sky." Then God told Abram that his name would no longer be Abram, but it would be Abraham, which means father of many nations. God also told Abraham that Sarai's name would be changed to Sarah. God promised to bless Sarah and told Abraham that she would become pregnant and have a son. God made a covenant with Abraham that day. His covenant was a promise that Abraham would have many sons, and they would be blessed.
That's the story of Abram and the covenant, and it's so cool to see how God had a promise for Abram now, where he was going to have a child soon, but also in the future, meaning he was going to have many descendants. And he has promises both for us now and in the future. My challenge for you guys today is to find a star, whether draw one, print one off, and place it somewhere just as a reminder that God has promises for us both now and for the future. But hey, let's check in with also our guy Carl to see how he's doing today with our big idea for our Promise series. Alrighty, let's roll that clip.
Once again, welcome to Grow TV.
Cassie, how have you been?
Good. Pretty busy, though. How about you?
Well, same. What have you been busy with?
I've been reading a lot about Noah since we talked about him last week, and I really like that part about God making a promise to him and his family.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts too. God's promises are really cool.
They are. I just hope I can get a promise for myself one day.
What do you mean?
Well, I've never gotten a promise from God.
Sure you have.
I think I would know, Carl.
Well, think about all the promises that are in the Bible.
I know, there are some cool ones, but I don't think they're for me. So that's why I'm waiting for my promise.
Wait a second. I think we need to play a game right now.
What game?
It's called Promise or Not.
How do you play?
Well, it's easy. I'm going to read off some promises that are in the Bible, and you're going to have to figure out whether or not it's a promise for you or not. Got it?
Got it.
All right. Let's do Isaiah 40:29. God gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak.
I don't think that's for me.
All right, round 2. James 4:7. Submit yourselves to the Lord. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you.
That's a tough one, but I'm gonna say not for me.
All right, third and final round. John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life.
Now, I've heard that verse before, but I don't know if that's a promise for me, so I'm gonna say no.
Okay, well, let's look at the scoreboard. We gave you the 3 promises from the Bible. You chose that 0 of these promises are for you. So let's see if you were wrong or right. How many of these promises were meant for Cassie? Whoa, all 3! Isn't that incredible?
I guess, but I don't know. I just don't know if that makes any sense.
I can understand that can be confusing, but when promises are made to God's children, that means all of God's children. Remember Abraham?
Abraham from the Old Testament?
Yep. God not only promised that he would take care of him and his family, but that his legacy would continue forever.
So God made him a specific promise?
Yep, and that promise wasn't just for Abraham, but it was for his kids, and their kids, and their kids, and their kids, and their kids. Basically forever. And that's the cool thing about God.
I guess you're right. It's pretty cool that God's promises are for now and for later.
And you know what's even cooler?
Ice cream.
Yeah, well, no. That does sound pretty good. But what I was gonna say is...
Polar bears. They are pretty cool.
What? No, I was gonna say that's our big idea.
Our big idea is polar bears?
No, the other thing.
Ice cream. Yay, that's our big idea.
What? No. Okay, this is getting out of control. Just roll the big idea intro.
Today's big idea is polar bears holding ice cream.
What? No, man, this show is going off the rails.
Sorry. This week's big idea is God's promises are for now and for later.
So on the count of 3, let's all say it together. Ready?
Ready.
1,
2,
3. God's promises are for now and for later.
God's promises are for now and for later. All right, let's jump into that verse for today, which is from Joshua 21, chapter 21, verses 45. Not one of all the Lord's good promises to Israel failed. Every one was fulfilled. Not one of all the Lord's good promises to Israel failed. Every one was fulfilled. Joshua 21, verse 45. Alrighty, DB kids and families, thank you so much for joining us today. Stay tuned next week as we continue on to look at God's promises. Hope you guys have a good rest of the day.